third lecture of The Difference Italy Makes. Tonight is a special night for a number of reasons. In the first two lectures of this series, we explored the Italian excellence in the obvious industries or food and industry with the CEOs of two important companies, Lecco and Bottega Veneta. Tonight, instead, we'll take a less obvious path. In the company of our distinguished guest, Mr. Ferdinando Aspesi, Italian chemist turned manager at Novartis, which is one of the world leaders in the pharmaceutical industry. The topic of tonight's lecture is the relationship between Italy and science in the field of medicine, pharmaceutical, and global industry. While we are so used to identifying Italy with its immense cultural patrimony, not everyone is aware of Italy's other notable contributions in the modern world to all fields of human work. Before introducing our speaker tonight, I just wanted to take a few minutes to show you a video that was recently released by the Italian government, presenting a very different image of Italy, and documenting the difference Italy makes in the global economy. So as you saw, there is way more than what you see on the calendars that you buy for Christmas with Italy, the nice images of the monuments and the beautiful roads. It's actually very that makes a lot of difference. tonight we'll explore one aspect of that life, and we'll explore the impact of Italian research on the development of medicine and pharmacology. At the same time, thanks to the personal experience of an Italian chemist and manager, we will journey into the multifaceted reality of a pharmaceutical giant like Novartis, and into the complex processes leading to the production and distribution of drugs. Mr. Aspesi, our speaker for tonight, is Vice President of Group Quality Novartis. He has been in the pharmaceutical industry as a scientist and operational leader for 38 years. He has worked and lived in Italy, Germany, France, the UK, South Africa, and the United States. What I find fascinating about his story is his progression from science. He holds a degree in organic chemistry from the University of Milan, to global management, with assignments in Frankfurt, Paris, London, Johannesburg, and Collegeville, PA. And above all, what I like is his creativity and flexibility in navigating through very different tasks and very different realities. I also think that this intrinsic malleability and genius is one of the most sought after qualities that Italians carry all over the world. So tonight we'll have like an initial presentation, 30 minutes long, and then we'll have time in the second half for a discussion. Before starting, I just wanted to thank our sponsors. This event is organized by the Italian Studies Program and the Department of Romance Languages and Literatures, and has been sponsored very generously by the School of Business, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, the IEC Institute, and the Office for Undergraduate Studies. A special thanks tonight goes to Laskri, the director of the IEC Institute, for hosting us in the IDEA Accelerator. And conclude by thanking you, Ferdinando, for being here tonight, and it's a great pleasure to have guests of your caliber here at Villanova.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for the applause and for the opportunity that I have here to talk to young people. In the room there are also professors and other, let's say, contributors, but the goal here is really what Luca has told me, to give an idea of where Italy excelled, where we are today in the science of in the pharmaceutical industry, and you will see that is a kind of difficult status, if you want, but very still exciting. And so I will try to give an idea of what Italy, or people from Italy, has contributed to the science world. Okay? Before I start, I would say that I will cover 3 pieces. One is the contribution of Italy to the science, particularly through the Nobel Prizes that the country, these people received. Then I will go into what has been my, let's say, journey through the science at the beginning, and then the career into management of the several companies. One of which, actually 2 big companies with 170,000 people, the other one 120,000. So huge undertaking. And then I will complete with a brief, let's say, set of informations around what is today the pharmaceutical industry in Italy. So it gives you also a business view and some, let's say, excellences or piece of excellence that is in there still. So, but before to start, I have to say disclaimer, whatever I am saying is not Novartis' view, is my personal view. And so, because of, let's say, laws that will not allow to me to explain or to discuss about Novartis itself, okay? So, just to start, I wanted to give you an idea of the Italy had in the last 100 years 12 Nobel Prizes in science, the recipients in the last 100 years. So the point I'm trying to make is I will not talk here about Leonardo or Galileo Galilei or Alessandro Volta or others, It's just the people that in the last 100 years have made or have received the Nobel Prize. Now, if you look into practically the list ends in 2007, but the two major areas where Italy or Italians got the Nobel Prize is in physics or in physiology and medicine, okay? So the first one, I suppose everybody knows him. I will cover 3 or 4 of them, not all of them, otherwise we stay here until the end of the night. But the first one is Guglielmo Marconi. And I don't know if I asked you who is Guglielmo Marconi. The professor of university cannot say anything. Who is Guglielmo Marconi? Students? You don't know. Okay. Guglielmo Marconi has been practically the scientist and also a businessman that had, let's say, invented or studied first the wave transmissions, okay, across, let's say, without a wire or a cable, right? And he developed practically the radio and the telephone without wires. Now, he founded also an interesting company. I took some notes because I don't remember that by heart. But he was the founder of a wireless telegraphs and signal company in the UK that then was called later the Marconi Company. And the Marconi Company is now part of BAE, British Aerospace Company. So the legacy of Marconi is still around somewhere in the world, besides our radios, besides whatever he has invented. I want to cover 2 other people in the physics. One is Enrico Fermi, and the other one is Emilio G. Segre, or Segre, depending on the pronunciation. These 2 people have been the fathers, if you want, of the atomic bomb. And they moved from Italy in 1938 because of the racial laws to the United States. And actually Fermi was in the Chicago Pilot 1, let's say, pilot plan. And Segre was part of the Manhattan Project. And then all of them got together at Los Alamos laboratories where they developed the bomb. But the important part of the bomb is not the bomb per se. Actually, it was the discovery of the atomic energy as a source of energy for whatever application we want to use. And that is a fundamental recognition of the work they did. And they got the one in 1938 and Emilio Segre in 1959. Now, Segre also, he was it was not only about atomic, let's say, bomb or in any case studies around all of that. He identified and described the antiproton, for whoever here understands this stuff. And also, he added 2 names to the Mendeleev table, okay? One technetium and the other one is astatine. So quite a kind of super job that he did. And later, in 1984, a 3rd person named Carlo Rubbia developed the G and W particles at the CERN accelerator in Geneva. So contribution to the, let's say, on the study and understanding of the particles, let's say, physics and how they were generated and how they are around in our world. One last one, actually 2. One is dear to my heart, is Giulio Natta in 1963. He won the Nobel Prize with a German named Ziegler, and practically they had developed a catalyst or study about catalysts around polyethylene. Why is dear to my heart is not only because I'm a chemist, but also because during those years, 1963, I was 15 years old, and I was at the high school, the chemistry high school in Italy. So I will explain later how it works a little bit, the system. So the excitement of the country, the company called Monte Edison at the time, Montecatini actually, and the new discovery of this possibility to study also the conformation in the space of the polyethylene has been a great, let's say, driver for me to join and doing chemistry at my time. And the last one is, what I want to remember is Rita Levi-Montalcini in physiology and medicine. Practically, she studied the, let's say, the growth, the nerve growth factor, the brain, okay? So how the brain acts and the interaction of the neurons and so on. There are others, but I don't want to cover all of that. Okay, so the message here is Italy is not just a country of Donatello, the painters, Dante, and so on and so forth. Has contributed a lot to the science of in the world. Now, my story, I will cover a little bit in 6 pieces because I've been in the industry for 38 years, so I'm almost a dinosaur. But I would say that I loved whatever I did, and I still enjoying what I'm doing. But I want to start with the years of education. A little bit of story anecdotes. After World War II, Italy was in tatters, was completely destroyed by the war. There was no money, nothing, okay? And thanks probably to the United States, some capital money came into the country and was organized across something with an institute. It's called IRI in Italian, Institute for the Reconstruction, that has developed the blueprint of what should have been Italy down the road in 10, 15, 20 years from the business standpoint and the science and technology standpoint. And through that, or connected with that, practically they developed a series of high schools. There is Lyceum, there is a classic Lyceum, and so on, a type of high schools that were supporting the new, let's say, endeavor in the industry, chemistry, electronics, textiles, and so on and so forth. So just to give an idea that was the environment in which I studied. And then I took 5 years of university in chemistry, and it took me 6 years. But just to give you an idea of the system in Italy, I don't know if you are familiar with that, but it's different than here. I had to go through 33 subjects. Okay, so quite from Math 1, Math 2, geometry, Physics 1, Physics 2, Physics 3, and so on and so forth. And I worked at the university for 2 years, a kind of postdoc after I finished. Okay, that was my education. And I described here from 1977, 5 years, I worked, let's say, as scientist with my organic degree, chemistry degree. And my first work was, let's say, organic synthesis. Somebody understands here what I'm talking about, to develop products called fenfluramides. But in reality, they were appetite suppressants. But later, as a category, didn't have the success that was expected because of cardiovascular implications using that. And this is like a dream of still today, of the pharmaceutical industry, to find a molecule that is, let's say, at least curing the obesity, something that is not there yet, despite all the investments. And then I worked more on the third and the fourth on rifampicin and rifapentin, but I put there also adriamycin because it was part of the Italian, let's say, science and the Italian innovation at that time. I don't know how many of you know those names, but adriamycin was the first anti-cancer drug that is still around today, is used, but has a little bit of cardiotoxicity. So is used in special situations. The other two, rifampicin and rifapentin, are one of the main treatment, because it's a combination treatment, for tuberculosis. Now, an anecdote around all of that. These products, do you know from where we discovered them? And I was part particularly of rifapentin and rifampicin. When we were going on vacation in summer, we were asked to bring home some soil of the place where we were going on vacation, okay? And that was given to the microbiologist that would have, let's say, selected or found or whatever new strains of bacteria that could develop later into the production of antibiotics. Now, just to give you an idea of those years, practically these actually two molecules, three I would say, they were put into the WHO list of the 15 products that each single country should have in their pharmacy cabinet to treat any disease of the country. So it was a huge achievement for Italy and for whoever worked on that. One last down there. In the years that we were crossing through World War II into the reconstruction, particularly in the south of Italy, was very difficult because of the water contaminated, bacteria contaminated, the sanitary conditions were not the best. And so was developed chloramphenicol. And I worked on this on a project of this, let's say, product. And we were producing 650 metric tons a year of that antibiotic. Now, and what is for the treatment of typhoid fever. So Italy at that time had a lot of technology around antibiotics, and still today has somehow. Okay, then from the scientist, I started moving into, technical, scientific, but also management. So the years of project management. I spent 3 years in South Africa building a pharmaceutical plant in practically 2 years, and I supervised. Here you will see all the slides. There is, what I did, how many people I supervised, so you will see the trend, and then let's say what the molecules or the products I dealt with. Just to give you an idea, in South Africa in 1983, so we are talking 32 years ago, we have introduced technologies that some of the plants that we have around the world in the industry are not there yet. For instance, fully automated warehouses, barcode driven. Barcode in 1983 was quite a technology, So what I'm trying to say is that was an innovation work to which I participated. In 2 years we built a pharmaceutical plant, and in another year we started it up from greenfield. Then the years of technical and people direct management, practically working in manufacturing plants. And so the people became bigger, my responsibility became bigger, the management gave me trust, and I worked in both in Italy and the United States. Italy for 6 years, south of Rome, and I want to cover these 3 products because it gives you a little bit the view of how the pharmaceutical research and development and product changed over those years from 1970s to 1990s. The first one is aprotinine, is a bovine pancreatic trypsin inhibitor, huge name. It reduces substantially the bleeding during operation. Now, what is so important? One is the bleeding, obviously, right? But is because it's extracted from the bovine lung, from the cows, okay? And so we put together a kind of process, I contribute or whatever it is, but to purify the extract of the bovine lungs that were crushed into kind of liquid and taking out this trypsin inhibitor. This kind of industry practically disappeared in late 90s when, how many of you understand what is the bovine spongiform encephalopathy, BSE, practically cow disease, okay? Mad cow disease, sorry, mad cow disease. So, just to give you an idea that Italy was at the forefront of those kind of technology, but practically was wiped out in the 90s. The other one is urokinase. Urokinase was the first new molecule, okay, I would say, derived from human urines. Now, an anecdote. We were collecting urines from the sport events or huge gathering of people. The famous blue pot is, how do you call those stuff? The plastic where you go peeing there, in there when you are at the stadium. Okay, we were collecting the urines and then purifying them through columns, whatever it was. And this was, at that time, a life-saving product. Actually, my mother died because it was not available such a kind of product. And it's been completely, now, this kind of, let's say, business or part of the science is gone completely for the simple reason that recombinant DNA, Genentech developed in around 1985, 1990, a so-called TPA that was trypsin, let's say, inhibitor and anticoagulant. And teicoplanin was developed in Italy, and from the company for which I worked, all these are products of that company, and the point is very, let's say, effective on gram-positive serious infections. You can see from there. And it was practically also from natural fermentation. Well, usually fermentation is natural, but let's say from very correlated to natural, let's say, molecules. Okay, 1995 and 2001. So I worked in the United States, and you see some names that are still around because Cardizem and Allegra, probably some of you, at least Allegra is taking, Cardizem no, I hope so. And I was part of, and this is the years of regional management. I moved from the site manufacturing into regional management. I had the responsibility for quality for at least 7 plants. Produced in Kansas City, in Cincinnati, and then the last 2 there were produced in France. Taxotere has been the most successful breast cancer treatment still today, okay? And I have a friend of mine, that Luciana, my wife is here, knows very well that is still today, after 15 years, or 20 almost now, without, let's say, reoccurrence of the cancer. And Lovenox, a small molecule, heparin, this is a story around that I want to say. This was a purification of the, I would say, the heparin, whatever heparin is, anticoagulant, but with a lot of side effects because of bleeding. This one had a much lower effect of bleeding, and actually is extracted by the bowels of the pigs. And you know where we were sourcing all those bowels? From China, okay? China is the biggest today producer of this, let's say, the raw material for this anticoagulant. And today it's still very, very much used in medicine. And the interesting part is that we had to have traceability from which pig or which farm was coming. Okay, so just to give you an idea. Then the years of top management. So Germany, UK, USA. I became the global head of quality for two defunct companies. One was Aventis, now it's Sanofi, and then Wyeth here in Collegeville. I supervised around 3,000 to 4,500 people, and this is a long list of things that I don't want to go through one by one. Some of you understand or see already the type of products, some being treated with that. For instance, Lantus is a long-lasting insulin, also recombinant DNA, okay, produced in Germany and shipped over here and used for the diabetes. When I started working on that thing, or at least having the global responsibility for that, was a product that was selling $100 million in 2000. Today, 15 years later, is $7 billion sales worldwide. Enbrel is rheumatoid arthritis, another debilitating, let's say, disease. Okay, is a well, you need to take an immunosuppressant in order to have this, let's say, disease solved. And then there are various other things here that I don't want to go through. The last three are more around Novartis, and some of you might recognize multiple sclerosis is the first treatment that really has an effect on the causes of the multiple sclerosis. And these are usually biotechnology products, meaning MABs, monoclonal antibodies or molecules that have a reference into the bioproteins, except for the last one. So I will explain later how my interest has changed over the time, okay, and what I had to deal with, because when you are dealing with science is one thing, when you're dealing with science and management of people is something different, is much different kind of environment. Okay, now we come to the last 3 years. I have 0 employees reporting to me. Nice life. I am a senior advisor, as you have seen in my job title. I advise the company on quality and potential compliance issues. But what I've done is practical. What I'm working on is long-term quality strategy, external advocacy, and mentoring and coaching of people of the company, potential managers of the future, into how to, let's say, operate in a complex environment, how to navigate through the politics, included that, okay? All right, so this has been my career, my development, if you want, my journey. Now, I've been asked to talk about a little bit what are the leadership characteristics that you should have or you should consider, okay, to go from a scientist to, okay, major manager of the company. And I try to synthesize or summarize, actually, in these 5 points. First of all, if you want to be a good leader and a good leader that people follow you, you need to aspire high, think always, stretch yourself, think broadly, be decisive. Now, I said something there based on data and facts, not on impressions. If you try to make decisions leading people based only on impression, I like, I don't like, sooner or later you might have a good career, but sooner or later you are going to you're going to lose your face and also your values. So develop people and execute flawlessly. Now, whatever I have always used in my work, what I've done, is managing by empowerment and not by fear. When you will start working in the industry or wherever, banks or wherever you go, there will be people that will manage by fear. If you don't deliver, you are fired, right? If you haven't done, you are fired. And actually this works for a while, but it doesn't work in a company that looks into the future. You need to empower the people that work for you, obviously, with objectives that they have to deliver something by the end of the year or by the time you have a project to be delivered and so on. Now, in general, some considerations. I've been blessed to work in the industry. I have a colleague here, a friend also, that is in the same in the same industry. Because at the end of the day, you are not working in a company. You are working for the patients that use your products, okay? So you make the life of people, you cure them, you make a life that is reasonably acceptable through the treatment that you provide for them. Or you cure, or you, let's say, avoid that certain diseases, you are more on the preventive side of all of that. The products and the other thing that I always like is people. Is you one day you'll have leaders, managers. I like to work with people. Despite my career, the time of the science and technology never stopped. I went up to the global head of quality and so on and so forth. And when you arrive over there, you are most of the case very, very lonely there, alone, okay? But at a certain point, they will ask for decisions, right? And the decisions are based on facts and data. So data, if you don't understand the data, you cannot make the decisions or direct the company to take the right road toward what the decision is. So I wanted just to mention that is a kind of, it doesn't disappear when you become a leader of a company. What is your backgrounds and your basic knowledge that you have to have. And the other thing that I want to say, particularly for you students, the life is in front of you, okay? The sky is the limit, right? Based on my experience, knowing the different cultures and languages. A small example, when you go to wherever, could be Europe, could be Singapore, could be China for 6 months, summer, let's say, abroad, don't try to use those 6 months for vacation. Trying to understand the culture, the history, what they really, how they live, because it's important for your future in a global environment, global economy. I have an anecdote there. As Italian, guess what? Somebody tries always, you have an attraction to stay with the Italians. When I went to South Africa, by decision I said, I stay with the South Africans. Because otherwise you will never know the culture, the ways of thinking, the subtle things that you should know about a culture. So be aware. And my personal values that are supportive of the, let's say, leadership. First of all, I am Christian, but I want to say why I put that there. You remember that I just said that the patients was my target, was my, let's say, passion, and so on and so forth. Okay, if you are Christian, and some of you are, you have to treat your neighbor is your, let's say, target of your, let's say, faith. And in the industry, the fact that the patients are people, right? So the Christian faith has helped a lot. And sometimes when you are over there alone, Several times I asked what Jesus Christ will do in this situation, taking this decision. Is going to hurt people, is going to create a problem, is going to generate an issue. Okay? The role of my wife and my family, I couldn't do anything without the support of my wife, and also my family, because they have been somehow the fans, okay, of Daddy, but also the sounding board sometimes, okay? Going home and say, I have this situation like this, what do you think, okay? Okay, I skip use the facts, and then the values. Okay, respect for people, treat the others as you would like to be treated, not simple, but that is fundamentally the value that I always lived. Integrity, honesty, transparency, courage to say and to speak up when the things go wrong, and then hard work. That is are the values that have always driven me. And I have my motto, per aspera ad astra, whatever understands Latin, but I never given up. So through the challenges to the stars, that by the way is even the motto of the Kansas state, okay, the state of Kansas actually, not the university. Okay, said that chapter is closed about my career. You can ask questions later. A little bit of information about the pharmaceutical industry in Italy. Just to give you an idea, the European pharmaceutical market is $265 billion of the market itself, compared with America's North America, 360. Italy is only 22 billion, so it is the third biggest market in Europe out of the 260, so less than 10%. Some of the R&D investments in Europe, the investments are around $33 billion. Now, our pharmaceutical companies, he is from GSK, invest around 15% of the actual sales into the innovation. And just to give you an idea, usually one of our products to develop and launch it cost around $800 million, okay? Not small money, but require that kind of investment. And I say that because there is a connection later with Italy. Just to give you an idea, aerospace spends 4.5%, chemicals 2.5%. So you can see the amount of money goes into the research and development. The other thing is the investment in R&D, pharmaceutical R&D, is only 1.4 compared with 6 in Germany. And in Italy, in the pharmaceutical industry, are employed 63,000 out of 700,000 in the European Union. And the pharmaceutical production in value of what you produce and then maybe potentially export is 1/10 approximately of the entire manufacturing value that is produced in Europe and Italy. Okay, the last one, then I stop. I wanted just to give you an idea what is Italy today. First of all, the environmental, the business environment has changed a lot in the last, I would say, 15, 20 years. And I think the last meeting that you have will be talking about the economics and the financial situation of Italy. Practically, when we talk about investing $800 million to develop one product, you need to have the bank system or the financial system supporting that. Something that in the last 20 years, the financial system in Italy didn't support that. So, major part of the biggest companies were bought or absorbed by global companies like Novartis, GSK, and so on and so forth. But it's still a center of biopharmaceutical fermentation. For antibiotics, those are the name of some companies there. There is the vaccine GSK, because Novartis bought a piece of Novartis, and now is GSK, where there is also a GSK, now GSK, research and development unit that has particular products about a vaccine around hepatitis C. And also there is active pharmaceutical small molecules, for whoever understand this, active manufacturing, active pharmaceutical production. Those are some certain names there. Then there are several multinational companies that have manufacturing plants, meaning finished products, the blister, bottles, powders, whatever. And 4 companies, there is not a company in Italy, pharmaceutical company like in UK or in Germany or in France or in the United States, that has a turnover of 30, 40, 50 billion. There are only 3 or 4 of them that are between 1 and 4 billion, okay? If you are interested in the names, I will tell you. A little bit of last 2 things there. One of the things that Italy has been good doing recently is developing at least let's say investigational vaccines for Ebola at the University of Naples, and then now is being taken over by GSK with a contract. So there is some medical and let's say innovation and let's say work done in Italy. And by the way, one of the major places where oncology studies are done on new molecules is Italy. And there is some hospitals in Milan, Genoa, and other parts, Naples, another part of Italy. So, said that, I thank you for your attention, and hopefully I have given you an idea what is a journey from scientist to management, and a little bit about science in Italy and the current pharmaceutical environment.
Before starting our discussion, I just wanted to highlight a few things. So what makes a scientist, a manager, now that also an academic. The relationship between what you study and a personal story. I like the idea of the encounter with naphtha that spurs the quest for something else. Second, the observation of reality, the observation of soil, the observation of human urines. Reality has something that is there to be detected. It requires someone who observes it. Third, knowledge and understanding of things, putting things together. And fourth, a lot of desire, a lot of faith, a lot of drive to enter into things. So not the model of the scientist or the manager of the academic who is detached, kind of ascetic, but someone who is involved with reality. This is what I find fascinating as a way to kind of wrap what you said up.
Thank you.
Now,
any question is fine.
Any question you might have.
It's fair.
On the presentation, on
other things. Yes.
My name is Jonathan Doe. I'm a faculty member at the business school. The pharmaceutical industry has come under a lot of different types of criticism over the last few decades, ranging from the high price of antiretrovirals for the AIDS patients to accusations of making minor changes to patented drugs in order to extend patents, to some more recently companies buying drugs from other pharmaceutical companies and hiking the price in ways that some people find ethically objectionable. Do you find any of these criticisms have more validity than others? And if so, has it caused you or the companies with whom you work to kind of change how they go about business? I realize it's a big question. And my own view is that often the pharmaceutical companies are unfairly criticized and unfairly called out. But I just am curious about, as you've had this long career in the industry, whether any of these criticisms you find have more salience, and if so, how's that changed
Well, it's a good question and a hot topic also. Okay. Now, as far as the pricing itself, when you talk about $800 million to develop a product, okay, I give you a little bit of perspective. Let's assume that you are able to find the right molecule that in vitro is active against something, okay? To develop that product, and right or wrong, I don't want to discuss the why, but it takes minimum 10 years. Even more now than 20 years ago, because the clinical trials are not anymore on 2,000 patients or 1,000 patients or even 100 at the time. Now is thousands, 10,000, something like that. So the cost and the extent is very, you have to invest a lot of money. The patent usually lasts 10 years. So as a company, you have to recoup the $800 million, right? In addition to that, you need to reinvest the money, 14%. Our company invests $9 billion a year in research and development. So that money needs to come from somewhere, right? So, and the other part is, so you have 10 years to recoup and making profit for shareholders. Somebody is shareholders here, including me, maybe, okay? So it's a big story, it's a financial story that we have to deal with. Considering then at the end of the 20th year, the first time a generic product comes in, the price goes from whatever you want. You can talk $1,000 a month. Let's assume 1,000 becomes $10. So you as an innovator, you have finished recouping the money, or you can get very little. So I'm not trying to say that I justify high prices. Now, there are, and sorry, this is only my view, and I want to underline is my view. There are companies that are ethically, let's say, committed to the patients and to being good, let's say, entrepreneurs, let's say this way. There are companies, and I don't mention who, but you know who I'm talking about, but they are just there for make profit, and that's it. Yeah, well, they talk about patients, but it's not the real story, okay? Now, in these tactics to let's say, extend the life of the product, yeah, it's true. There are options there where you can extend the life of the patent. Why? Sometimes it's because of the children, the product was not studied in children during the clinical trials or was very limited. So you can have an extension for children treatment, right? Or you can have maybe a new formulation that potentially, if you are, again, an honest entrepreneur, limit the side effects, because based on pharmacovigilance on the side effects, you can also study a formulation on the same molecule that can, so there are some pieces there that, but it's not that everybody plays the game to be nasty dollar only people. That's my experience in the industry.
Thank you.
Oh, just an information, because I shared with, well, he left now. The story of the generics, I don't know how many people knows all of this. Do you know what is the ratio, or in percentage, of how many in the United States, how many prescriptions are generics and how many are not generic, meaning, let's say, innovative products and so on? Do you have an idea? Give me a number. Pardon? 5 to 1. No, it's 90% generic and 10% innovative products. So when you think about the pricing and the volumes and the possibility to reinvest into the treatment of new or particular special diseases, you have to think about all of that. All the story of this R&D is only around the 10% of the prescription drugs. And then one last thing, because in your question there were multiple questions. But one last thing. Yeah, there are prices that are very high. Okay, I don't want to comment about Gilead or anybody else. But the other part is the generic drugs. I mean, nobody talks about the price of the generic drugs. The media checks only into that price is very high. But if you think after 10 years, all of that becomes very affordable, that is very good contribution to, okay, welfare, health system, whatever you want, right? So that's the reason why certain companies, Pfizer, Novartis, and others, have also a generic division. Because when you go and you discuss with the, let's say, insurance providers or health systems and so on, you talk about this costs $1,000 a month, but I can give you a package for something that comes out from patent, I don't know, in 5 months at $1 a tablet, or I don't know, 1 cent a tablet usually. So there are all these kind of balances. It's a business related. Yes.
Question from an organic chemistry type perspective. There's a couple of my students here. You can see a trend in some of your slides, and I think you also mentioned that the industry is moving a little more toward biologicals and less toward the development of small molecules. Is that because, you know, the low-hanging fruit, as they say, is all gone, or is it just
no.
effective treatments, or what you
No, there are more. Well, it's a mix of things, but one is the genome study, the coding, is generating a lot of opportunities, and the biotech and the MABs, because if you're, I don't know, you might know, but the monoclonal antibodies, until I would say 15 years ago, they were not considered as oncology drugs because they were not understanding the mechanism to connect to the active site, okay, the monoclonal antibody. Now it's possible, it's been studied and it's known. So that's the reason there is a development in the biotech. The other are proteins. The Embrel, okay, is, I forgot now the molecular weight, but probably is 70,000 Daltons, whatever, against 300 small molecules. So you are targeting different targets with a bigger protein and so on. So there is a lot going on there, and the future is in biotech. It's not in the small molecules. That's at least my view. Yes.
Can you comment on the brain drain from Italy? Would you have had your career if you had stayed in Italy?
Okay, I answer this way. First of all, I would say that at least at my time, but I think still today, the education system is reasonably good. Okay, so the university, the studies I did and so on, you see he is Italian too, so he went through the same system. There are many of us that are around the world, and they are doing very well in Germany, in the UK, here in America. So the basic, let's say, education is very good. The problem is what I said before. The opportunities are not there anymore, at least in our industry. Well, there are there, but at a different level. I mean, if you want to do what I have done or what maybe he is doing, you need to move out of Italy. Or I can give you an idea. Okay, I have a colleague of mine, a friend actually, that was 15 years ago developing some cell therapy. Okay, has been a huge struggle to get the financing and the opportunity to develop that startup. And even today, I don't know if they have reached a certain. They are doing because they like science, but not because there is a return on on all the investment they have made. And so, right or wrong, in Germany, in UK, here in the United States, is where you can have that support. So, and you leave for that reason. It's not because, yeah, okay, any country has its own problems, okay? So the politicians here are quite similar to the others, and the others are similar to this one. So anyway, is Italy, in the let's say from 2008, when the financial crisis went through, happened, in my view, Italy is going through the change of the globalization, something that this country went through 15 years ago. They lost a lot of manufacturing capabilities. And where did they go? They go to China, because why? Same story like here. Okay, an engineer in Italy maybe gets $1,500 a month, net. You go to China, 200. The calculation is done very quickly. The other thing is that is happening also here is the tax environment. We have Pfizer that is trying to go to Ireland, right? So why? Because they pay 6, 7, 8% of taxes. Here they pay whatever, 26. What we do is a financial, let's say, approach to move things across the world. And my concern is, I'm talking about, you asked about Italy, but in general. We have done in the last 20 years, I'm talking pharmaceutical industry, a huge technology transfer to China and India. And they've learned doing things in 20 years that we learned in 100 years, okay? So the United States will be still a center of research and development. From the manufacturing standpoint, I think that will be not there in the future, unless the biotechnology creates another environment where it's possible to manufacture here at a different cost, let's say, because going to China is not feasible. But if you read, it's China, India, and, okay, Ireland because of taxes, or Singapore, taxes. That's the only reason.
I have one last question, and then we can continue our conversation. What is your impression of the cultural different approaches to healthcare and pharmaceutical in the various places where you live?
Well, first of all, there are, at least my view is, there are different pharmacy schools, and I give you an example. In Italy, if you have a child that sometimes, and don't fall out of your chair, that has, I don't know, the temperature is 105. The easiest way to lower down the temperature of the baby is to give a suppository to the baby, and the temperature will go down because the absorption through the guts is much higher. If you go to England or in South Africa, that is absolutely not acceptable. Okay, so this just to give you an idea that there are different schools and different ways of thinking. It's a cultural stuff. Now, if you're asking where is better the health system, is a different. You are looking for this?
The cultural approach. Well, how do people see the relationship between man and medicine differently from rights?
Okay, there is a Western world, and there is a non-Western world in the sense of emerging countries where they have to survive on other things. I don't see a major difference between Southern Europe, United States, Northern Europe, and so on. It is a different pharmacy school. Somebody takes for oral or sometimes liquid or injectables. I don't see, from the technical standpoint, and the cultural part is everybody wants to feel better when there's a disease or has something. Some diseases are very serious, life-threatening. So when you, in a way or another in our life, we will have to deal probably with cancer or cardiovascular diseases. So when you are diagnosed that way, it's a huge undertaking. Now, in the Western world, because the culture of, let's say, values that we have, but I would say also North Africa, same thing. In other countries, the poorest one, they have other issues much more urgent. And so there is a kind of social, let's say, welfare or health system approach, because if you go to Brazil or South Africa, they were the one that infringed the patents of the pharmaceutical companies. Why? In order to treat their people with a very cheap product on HIV, for instance. So these are the kind of things. But the issue of the human being is the same all over the world.
Thank you very much for